Alright, let's talk about a galaxy that had pretty much forgotten what mercy even looked like. A place where a life's value was just, another number on a balance sheet, and sentient beings? Yeah, they were often just another cut of meat. Picture this. The neon-drenched, grimy streets of Xylar. A sprawling station where everything's for sale. A lone human, Jax Ryland, found himself staring into a butcher's window. But he wasn't looking at some unthinking beast's carcass. No, he was looking straight into the terrified, wide eyes of catgirls, huddled together, caged, and absolutely destined for the slaughter. He had barely a handful of credits to his name, just enough to scrounge up his next meal, maybe. But in that gut-wrenching moment, he just knew Jax Ryland was, honestly, the kind of spacer you'd probably forget 5 seconds after meeting him. Think. A brown coat 2 sizes too big, boots held together with more tape than sole, and a ship that coughed and wheezed more than it actually flew. He'd washed up on Xylar Station after a cargo run went spectacularly sideways, his accounts frozen tighter than a cryochamber, his crew scattered to the 4 winds. Everything he owned now? A beat-up multi-tool and exactly 43 credits. 43. Let that sink in. A single bowl of synth noodles, the cheapest, blandest stuff around, cost 50. So when he stumbled past that butcher's stall, brazenly advertising premium feelin'it cuts, fresh, tender, conscious, he wasn't shopping. He was actively trying to keep moving, to just not look ldient walk away. Could you? But then it happened. He saw the smallest one, huddled at the back of the cage, meet his gaze. Her delicate ears flattened against her head, her tail curled so tight it looked like it might snap. And then, she whispered, so faint he almost missed it, "Help!" It wasn't a mew, or a hiss, or some animalistic cry. It was a word. A shaky, desperate, unmistakable word. Jax stopped dead in his tracks. Around him, the chaotic market kept churning, scales clicking with alien chatter, wings flapping overhead, credits pinging from vendors. Nobody else even flinched. The universe, it seemed, had officially priced compassion right out of the budget. It was a hard truth, one Jax knew all too well. The butcher, a hulking, 4-armed Urso, noticed Jax hovering. He wore an apron that was less white and more a canvas of old bloodstains, and he grunted, a sound like gravel shifting. "Special today, human buy 1, get 1/2 off," he rumbled, tapping a thick, plasteel cage with a clawed digit. Inside, 6 catgirls huddled, their fur matted with grime and fear, pupils blown wide, reflecting the garish neon glow of the market. Jax's own stomach growled, a loud, embarrassing rumble that almost drowned out the station traffic. He could practically taste the protein slabs from 3 stalls down, 30 credits for enough to eat for a week. He should walk away. He should survive. Instead, he heard his own voice, surprisingly steady, ask, "How much for all of them?" The Urso laughed then, a genuinely chilling sound, like a grinder chewing through bone. "The whole litter? 200 even. Take 'em alive. Take 'em apart. Your business, not mine." 200. Jax had 43. He opened his palm anyway, letting the chipped, worn coins catch the harsh neon light. "I've got 43. I'll owe you the rest." The laugh died in the Urso's throat. His tiny, predatory eyes narrowed, measuring Jax. Just another human drifter, couldn't even afford the air he breathed, let alone 6 sentient beings. No credit, no contract. Market closes in 10 minutes, human. They go on the block after that. And trust me, the block isn't for pets. Jax's pulse hammered against his ribs. He could leave. He could survive to fight another day, right? Except lately, survival had started to feel an awful lot like his hand instinctively dove into his coat, fishing around for the only thing he had left that held any real value. It was a dented, old data chip, crammed full of star maps he'd spent 5 years charting, painstakingly triple-checking every single coordinate. To most, it would look like junk, but to a navigator, to someone who truly understood the void, it was priceless. It was his ticket home, or at least his ticket somewhere. "Maps to an unclaimed jump route," he blurted out, his voice a little hoarse. "Triple-checked. More than 200 credits if you find a buyer who knows what they're looking at. The Urso sniffed, a low, rumbling sound, but a flicker of curiosity, a predatory glint, sparked in his eyes. Jax pressed, sensing an opening. You take the chip, I take them. Everyone wins. A long, agonizing silence descended, thick with the smell of fry grease and ozone, the metallic tang of the market. Every second stretched a lifetime. Then, with a loud, final click, the cage lock sprang open. Deal, human, the Urso grunted, a chilling promise in his tone. But if that route is garbage, if it's a waste of my time, I'll be wearing your hide next. You understand. Jax didn't wait for another word. He practically lunged, ushering the terrified catgirls out, his own heart drumming a frantic rhythm against his ribs. They moved like smoke, silent, stunned, their small tails lashing with a mixture of fear and confusion. 43 credits and a data chip, the staggering, impossible price of 6 lives. His last meal money, his last map home. And yet, somehow, he felt lighter than he had in years. As if the weight of the galaxy's indifference had finally lifted, just a little. Back aboard his battered freighter, aptly named the Rusty Compass, the catgirls clustered together in the cargo bay, their luminous eyes reflecting the dim, flickering emergency lights. Jax, fumbling but gentle, tossed them blankets, protein cubes, anything he could possibly spare. His own supplies were already threadbare, but it didn't matter. You're safe, he said, his palms open, his voice soft, trying to convey a reassurance he barely felt himself. The smallest one, the one who had spoken, cautiously stepped forward. "I'm Mira," she whispered, her voice still shaky. We thought humans bought meat, didn't talk." Jax managed a tired, crooked smile. "Most do, Mira. I'm just low on credits and apparently high on stupid." Her ears twitched, almost a laugh, a tiny, fragile sound of relief. Over the next few bewildering days, he learned all their names. Mira, the brave, quiet leader. Kess, sharp-eyed and quick. Luma, gentle and observant. The inseparable twins, Tali and Taysai, full of playful mischief. And Elder Para, whose wisdom shone through her weary eyes. Their language was a beautiful, complex mix of trills and the common Galstan tongue. Their culture prizing stories, the comforting brush of touch, and shared warmth above all else. Jax, despite his own gnawing hunger, rationed his meager food even further, installed makeshift privacy panels in the cargo bay, and patiently began teaching them the ship's basic systems. They learned with astonishing speed, their delicate, nimble claws proving perfect for fine wiring and intricate repairs. At night, he'd hear them purring in shared nests, a sound like old Earth cats but layered, harmonic, a chorus of fragile contentment. He hadn't realized how long he'd lived without hearing genuine comfort. It was a sound that began to mend something deep inside him. Trust, as it often does, built slowly brick by painstaking brick, and then all at once it just was. One shift, as Jax was tinkering with a sputtering power conduit, Para, the elder, gently pressed a paw over his hand, her claws carefully sheathed. "You starve so we eat." "Why?" she asked, her voice soft but direct. Jax, caught off guard, just shrugged, a weary, almost reflexive gesture. "Because someone should," he murmured. Simple words, right? But in a universe that ran on exploitation, on the commodification of anything that couldn't fight back, those words carried an almost unbearable weight. They were a radical act. Mira, ever the curious one, began shadowing him on repairs, her tail flicking intricate engineering equations in the air as she observed. She'd ask him about Earth cats, about oceans, about why humans ever left their home world. And Jax, in turn, found himself asking about her people's ancient songs, about the subtle whisker twitches that conveyed joy, about the stories woven into their fur patterns. They shared stories like contraband, precious and illicit. For the first time since his crew had bailed on him, since his life had gone to hell, Jax felt truly necessary. Not profitable, mind you, he was still broke as ever, but necessary. The distinction, he realized, mattered more than any amount of credits. It was a purpose, a reason to keep the rusty compass flying. Of course, word spreads faster than a hyperspace plague in the outer rim. A freighter captain suddenly boasting unregistered biocargo? That drew attention like a moth to a flame. Station security pings started coming in. An outstanding docking fee, suddenly remembered. And the Urso butcher, true to his word, had posted a hefty bounty for theft of property. His reputation apparently more valuable than any data chip. Jax's account, naturally, stayed frozen. His galley, always sparse, now echoed with a chilling emptiness. His stomach, however, was in constant, loud disagreement. Mira found him one cycle, meticulously tallying air scrubber cartridges. His brow furrowed with worry. "We can leave," she said, her voice firm, her eyes bright with conviction. "We know void, we know fear, but we also know you." He looked up, meeting their gazes. 6 pairs of eyes, luminescent with a fierce, unwavering faith that both humbled and terrified him. "But where would we even go?" he asked, the question heavy with doubt. Kess grinned then, a flash of sharp, predatory fangs that could probably punch through hull plating. "Any place we choose, Jax," she declared, her voice surprisingly confident. Together, Jax felt the old star maps, the ones he'd abandoned, burn anew in his mind routes he'd never dared to consider, places beyond the reach of the Galactic Council. Freedom, a concept he'd long since given up on, suddenly sounded a lot like engines firing, a desperate, exhilarating roar. He plotted a course, a reckless, desperate gamble, aiming beyond all charted lanes, deep into the uncharted vastness of the drift where enforcement simply didn't reach. Fuel was tight, oxygen even tighter. It was a desperate run, pure and simple. Halfway out, the inevitable happened. A patrol corvette, sleek and menacing, pinged them. "Unregistered vessel, cut engines. Prepare for immediate inspection." Jax's hand hovered over the hyper lever, his knuckles white. One jump, just one more, would tax the rusty compass's cores to cracking, perhaps even beyond. It was a suicide run. Almost Mira, sensing his hesitation, his doubt, placed her smaller, surprisingly strong paw over his trembling hand. Her eyes met his, full of an ancient wisdom and a fierce, unspoken trust. "Trust your math, Jax," she whispered. He slammed the lever down. The old ship groaned, a terrible, tearing sound, as if its very hull was protesting the impossible strain. The catgirls yowled, a harmonic, terrified chorus that vibrated through the deck plates. Stars smeared into impossible streaks of light. Behind them, the corvette shrank to a toy, then a distant spark, then nothing at all. They burst into dark space, lungs burning, every muscle screaming, but alive. Jax threw his head back and laughed, a raw, incredulous sound of pure, unadulterated triumph. Mira joined him, a raspy, joyful trill. Around them, one by one, the others picked up the chorus, until the entire bridge vibrated with a wild, reckless hope. They were free. Weeks later, after what felt like an eternity of dodging patrols and rationing every last bit of power, they limped into a rogue mining outpost. It was a forgotten speck in the void, a place with no laws, cheap repairs, and even cheaper futures. Perfect place to disappear. Jax, with a sigh that felt like it came from his very bones, sold the rusty compass's backup generator for scrap, buying seed stock and a hydropod with the meager proceeds. The catgirls, ever resourceful, carefully planted herbs from home spores they'd somehow managed to carry in their fur, tiny green shoots pushing through the nutrient gel. Para, with her surprising knack for ancient crafts, taught Jax how to weave warming blankets from tough fiber weed. Tali and Taysai, the twins, with their innate understanding of systems, rewired the ship's old sensors into an ingenious warning grid. They transformed the dusty cargo hold into a communal den, curved walls, soft, bioluminescent lights, and stories painted in vibrant, paw-print murals. Jax kept waiting for the regret to set in, for the universe to finally present its overdue bill. But it never came. Instead, Mira pressed her forehead to his, her fur soft against his skin. "You paid, Jax," she murmured, her voice a warm purr. "Now we pay forward." And in that moment he realized, no one was keeping score anymore. Not here. Not in their new makeshift family. It wasn't about debts or credits. It was about shared survival, shared dreams. Back on Xyler, a grainy security clip eventually surfaced. It showed a human, Jax, bargaining away what looked like fortune maps for meat. It's proof that sometimes, the best investment you can ever make is the one that leaves you broke, but breathlessly, gloriously alive. If this story hit you right in the feels, if it made you think, then don't just sit there. Smash that like button so hard the algorithm purrs. Seriously, let's make some noise. And hey, drop a comment below. What would you spend your last credits on if you were Jax? What's worth everything to you? Subscribe for more sci-fi that isn't afraid to punch cruelty in the face. Because frankly, someone's gotta do it. Until next time, keep your claws sharp, and your heart even sharper.